this. Look at this. I want you to see this. This is, and I'm not kidding, this is the library. Ah! This is the library. This is privately owned too. But in the summertime, you can get books out of here. I think there are books in here. Wait a minute. Let me look. Oh, will you look at that? Whoa. Books. Lots of books. Whoa. Come here. Come see. I want you to show it. I want you to see this. Come here. Come here. Will you come here? I know the snow's deep, but come down here and look in the window. Well, yeah, I know it's messy in there. The books are all over the place, but in the summertime, I understand they put them in nice, neat rows, and they're real easy to find. Well, the place isn't very big. Of course, all the books in here are easy to find. Okay, down this road is Ellsworth Pond. The guy who picked up his mail there probably lives down there. It's quite a distance down that road. But this way, out this way, is Rumney and Stinson Lake, which is where we're headed for. But they tell me that this road is supposed to be impassable. This doesn't look impassable to me. This is absolutely dry pavement. I guess what we ought to do is we ought to just drive up the road and see if we can get through. Well, that's it. Skis, that's the way you get through this road. That or a four-wheel drive, because they're right, it's not maintained in the wintertime. Look at this. Somebody's been through here because you can see the tracks, but that's obviously four-wheel drive, and we don't have four-wheel drive. If you want to try it, you can. This goes through to Stinson Lake and then to Rumney. Rumney, of course, is where Mary Baker Eddy had her homestead. The Mary Baker Eddy house is there. A lot of other things to see there, too. And Stinson Lake is wonderful, and I got a story about Stinson Lake. My maternal, that is, grandfather ran the general store at Stinson Lake, and he was a bigamist. But I can't tell you that story because we're not there this time. I'll tell you what we'll do. The next time we go out, we'll go around the park here, and we'll come in from the other side, and we'll go to Rumney and then into Stinson Lake, and then I can tell you the story. See you then. One thing about us Yankees, we are bound and determined to get things done. And so the very next week, I decided to tackle Stinson Lake from another direction. This time, we're trying to get to Stinson Lake from Rumney Depot, which is where we are right now, right in front of Steve's Restaurant, where we've just had lunch, which was delicious. And now we're going to visit one of the Rumney selectmen, Mr. Joe Kent. On the way to Joe's house, we go through Rumney Center with its common and library. Joe's house is just across from Dick and Dot Gifford's General Store and the post office. Joe tells me this is the social center of Rumney. He says nearly everybody in town stops in here at least once a day.
And then as you proceed another 200 or 300 yards towards Stinson Lake, if you look down, you'll see the crutch factory. There's a low-slung red building. Obvious crutch factory. Crutch
like on crutches?
Like I broke my leg skiing and I need crutches. One of the few remaining wooden crutch manufacturing installations in the United States.
Machine operator Martin Richardson.
There are a lot of people in town who remember when there were half a dozen crutch mills in Rumney, but this is the last surviving one, and it's unique in that we buy the lumber, the raw lumber, process the whole crutch.
You say half a dozen crutch factories in Rumney? Rumney was the crutch factory capital
of the world. Yeah. Pretty near everybody in Rumney has worked at the crutch mill at one time or another. It's a lot of our woodworkers and carpenters have cut their teeth on these machines.
Just up the road from Kelly Manufacturing Company is the Mary Baker Eddy home. Mrs. Eddy was the founder of the Christian Science Church. Nowadays, the home is cared for by Bryce and Jean Russell.
Well, at the time that she lived here, she was married to a dentist, and she was married to Dr. Daniel Patterson. She lived here from 1860 to 1862, during which time the Civil War broke out and Lincoln was elected president. We're open May 1st through October 31st. We're closed on Mondays and holidays.
What people see here is 3 rooms, which are the museum. Mrs. Eddy's living room with some of her own furniture in it, a rocking chair, a round table, a clock, and so forth. That was her own furniture. And the 2 upstairs bedrooms were, one was Mrs. Eddy's bedroom, the other was Dr. Patterson's bedroom.
Had she founded Christian Science by that time, or was this before?
Just prior, it was prior to it, because she discovered Christian Science in 1866. So when she left here in 1862, it was just 4 years prior to it.
And then you proceed in a winding road some 7 miles until you come to Stinson Lake, which is the largest lake at the highest elevation in the state of New Hampshire. It's a classic, what they would call a torn lake. It's a glacial lake. Very, very lovely.
The Stinson Lake General Store was operated in 1906 by my maternal grandfather, Bill Butler. My grandfather operated the store in a building now torn down. He left the area in the late 20s when it was found out that he had 2 wives in New England and another wife down south. I always thought it was big of him to move away, save embarrassment. And you gotta admit, it's big of me to have the nerve to tell this story. The present general store is run by Mike Lewis.
If somebody comes by with cross-country skis, can you show them where to go?
Absolutely. Not only that, but we rent cross-country skis, so people come here to do that specifically. At one time, there was a mill next door to here that was a giant building. And they used to draw all their logs off the adjoining mountains. And at one time, you could walk from one side of the lake to the other on logs. It was totally full of logs. And when World War I came along, they disbanded, went back over to Vermont where they originated from, and took the mill down. Meantime, piles and piles of logs sunk, or that were put in the cove here, sunk to the bottom, and left all the residue at the bottom of the lake. They all sunk, and as a matter of fact, they have been logging that log pile at the bottom of the lake since. They've been drying them out. They're still perfectly good.
Okay, this is it. This is either the end or the beginning, depending on how you look at it, but as you can see, the road here is not plowed any more than it was plowed on the other side in Ellsworth on our last up-the-road sequence. But take my word for it, this is a beautiful drive in the summertime, where you can come from West Campton to Ellsworth, right around, down over to Stinson Lake and down to Rumney. It's a wonderful drive. But as I say, we couldn't do it this time. You could do it with cross-country skis. In fact, if you went over to Ellsworth and cross-country skied and went down to Stinson Lake, had a cup of coffee at the general store and skied back, it's only about, I guess it's 3 miles or so here, another 2 miles there. What's that? 5 miles, 10 miles in all. It's worth it. Or drive up here if you want. Happy motoring. Now, I realize I didn't tell you a great deal about my maternal grandfather, but the fact of the matter is, most of the story is rumor. And besides, it's so sordid, I'm sure you wouldn't be interested in it. Next, we travel 30 miles due east from Stinson Lake over to Silver Lake, which is located in the town of Madison. And on this day trip, which we took in the fall, we visited not only Madison, but also the town of Snow Village, which exists only in the mind.